Hello friends, Jeff here, and welcome to Squadron, and welcome to Squadron Facebook Live. For the ones that weren't tuned in last week, we're going to do this every Friday at 12 o'clock Central Time, 12 o'clock noon Central Time. I'll be here talking models. We're going to talk, definitely, what am I saying? We're definitely going to talk about models, plastic models of course. We're going to do inbox reviews, we're going to do like painting techniques, we can talk about a movie, we can talk about a book, or I can tell a story. Now in my 45 years of, let's say my model career, I went through a lot of stuff, you know. I had a long history of getting all kind of stuff through the models, through the model industry, and I would like to share that with you. A lot of people ask me, you know, Jeff, how did you get into this, into the model industry? How did you get, what is your first model, or how did you end up in the United States? So I would like to shed some light on that and tell my story once in a while. Now I'm not going to do that in one stretch, it would take too long, but I would like to do it in a couple increments of about 10-15 minutes and tell some sort of a segment of my life that all involved model building. Let me get a little closer. Now you know that sometimes something very small that happened in your life, like a small gesture, a small happening, can change somebody's life completely. It can completely give you another path of direction, and that happened to me. You know, it's like when you have let's say a little creek behind your house that flows in one direction for hundreds of years. If you take a stone, a rock, or a pebble out of that river and you place it somewhere else, or you take it completely out, that creek will never flow the same anymore. It takes a completely different path. So that's the same with me. So let's go back to the 1960s. You know, I was like maybe early 60s, mid 60s. I was about 5 or 6 years old. And I was a normal kid, you know. I just played outside. Back then there was no video games, there were no social media. It was all outside. We played cops and robbers, soccer, cowboys and Indians. Like I said, just a normal kid. Now, I didn't have any special interest or anything, but well, all we did was just talk to each other and try to make it through the day. Now, my parents, they were a lot older than me. What am I saying? A lot older than me. Of course they were a lot older than me, but they were a lot older in life. I mean, I was the nestling of the family. I was about probably, my brother was 15 years older than me. My sister was already in her teenage years. And my parents were, my father was in his mid 40s. So they were basically old people. If you look through the eyes of a 5-year-old and you look at a 45-year-old, they're old. They're old and boring. So were my parents. Now, my dad, the year before, he bought a car, the first car we ever owned. So the tradition was that on Saturday evening, we got in the car and we were visiting family members. Now, my brother didn't go, my sister didn't go, but since I was the smallest one, I had to go. So up we went in the family car, up to visit family members. So, long story short, eventually that particular evening we ended up with Uncle William and Uncle William and Aunt Marie. So we sit there, traditional coffee and cookies. There was nothing going on much. The older people were talking. I didn't have anything going for me. I had like a comic strip, if I remember correctly, but I already read that thing like 5 times. So I was walking, I was looking at the interior, and very boring. Not much that caught my attention until I looked at their TV set. Now the TV set was always turned off because out of etiquette and respect, the TV set, whenever you had friends or family over, was turned off. But on top of that TV set, there was something caught my eye, and it was a figure. It was a medieval figure, and it was like painted silver. So I got up from the table, walked all the way to the TV and looked at it, and it was the most beautiful thing I ever saw until that moment. It was like a statue of a medieval knight. But when I looked a little closer, it looked like a girl. You know, I was normally, from what I learned from history, or I knew from history, was like medieval knights. They all looked rough. They had beards, but this statue had a girly face. So Uncle William looked at me, and he came over and he said, "Do you know who that is?" And I said, "No, sir, I do not." And he said, "That's Joan of Arc. She was a French freedom fighter. She was a girl that was 19 years old, and she was a freedom fighter and a heroine, and she got arrested by the government and burned to the stake." So from that moment on, it looked at that statue looked like got some sort of a divine kind of a feel for me, and I could not get my eyes off it. I just wanted to like basically touch it or hold it. So I went back to the table, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, it was time to go. Parents said their goodbyes. So Uncle William come over, and he said, come over here. I want to show you something." So he goes over to the TV, gets the statue, and gives it to me. And he said, "This is for you. This is, since you like it so much, this is, you can keep it. And trust me," and you might say you don't believe it, but I heard angels sing. When he gave me that thing, I was like absolutely, it was the most beautiful thing that somebody ever gave to me until that particular moment. So, "Are you sure? Can I keep it?" "Yes, I'll make another one. It's just a model kit." And so I didn't know what a model kit was, but anyway, I got this, glad, happy. We went home, sat in the back of the car, balancing that figure, because I didn't want, when my dad ran into a pothole, I had to make sure that it was absolutely balanced so nothing would break off. Got home, got out of the car, showed my sister, showed my brother. Both of them didn't give a shit. I mean, they basically, "Get away from me. I don't even want to look at it or anything." So it was bedtime, went to bed, put it on my nightstand, fell asleep, woke up, there it was. Showed my friends, and I was so infatuated with that. Now, a week went by, and we had another tradition. It was usually like on a Saturday morning. Back then in Belgium, they didn't have those big grocery stores. When you had to do your shopping, you had to go to the farmer's market. So in Leer, every Saturday morning, the city I was born, there was a farmer's market, and my mother and my sister, every Saturday morning from 9 to 12, they went to the farmer's market and did their shopping for the whole week. My dad took them there, dropped them off, and then at 12 o'clock they had to meet him at a certain corner, picked them up, and drove back home. So, long story short, went to the farmer's market, 12 o'clock, me and my dad went in the car, picked my sister and my mother up, loaded the bags in the car, and went home. Now when we got home, my mother was, first thing she did of course was unpack her bags, and at one time she said, "Oh, Jeff, I forgot something. I got something for you. Come over here." So she digs into her bag, and I remember that moment. I still remember her saying that and digging into her bag, and this is what she pulled out. She said, "Here, this is for you." Now, this, my friends, this changed my life forever, because this was the first model she gave me. Now, I built that model that day with my father, and we had a lot of fun building it, and I found one on eBay a while ago, so I kept that. So this is the first model that she ever bought to me. Now, every Saturday morning from that moment on, my mother bought me a plastic kit. Every Saturday morning when she came home, the first thing I did was just digging through her bags until I got plastic. And that went on for years, until of course I started buying my own stuff and all that kind of stuff. But it's all about the nostalgia about things. I'm old school, like I said before, I'm old school. I like to think back on those days. And I know that a lot of you guys think the same way. A lot of you guys, older or younger than me, they will at least associate with a story. And I'm sure we all have a story to tell. So during the comments, please let us know what kind of model you had when you got into the hobby, because we like to read. I like to read upon it. So anyway, now the story is, if there's any younger people out there that are watching this, you know, now the industry changed a lot. I'm not saying it changed for the worst or anything. No, it changed a lot. There's a lot more distraction out there for young people, and the gaming, the video, social media, computers. But I just, if I could encourage a few of you out there, just to buy a model and do it, you will learn skills, or you will discover skills that you thought you never had. And it's the same with me. I didn't know about Joan of Arc until I saw that statue and my uncle told me about it. And so with every model I built, I learned something about history, and it's very captivating. So for everybody out there, just give it a try. Now, talking about nostalgia, we also know that Squadron, they had we had our 50th anniversary last year, but Squadron shop started with actually a brick and mortar shop. The first one was in 1968 in Detroit. And sooner, over the years, they had several. They went from the East Coast to the West Coast, from New York all the way to San Francisco, and they had several brick and mortar shops out there. But then, of course, the retail mail order kicked in, and then, of course, the internet was a big deal. So less and less more brick and mortar shop, mom and pop shops, they start to disappear. Now, we thought about this, and Christmas is coming, so we thought, let's go back to our roots. Let's go back to the shop, and we'll do more and more in next videos and all that. But for now, we have, we call it a pop-up shop. So we thought it would be a good idea to go back to our where we started. Like Squadron is, or at least had a walk-in store. So we have one set up. Tomorrow it's going to be a soft opening. So everyone who is watching this and living in the Dallas area, please stop by. It's going to be every Saturday from 9 to 3 o'clock. And just come in. We have the coffee and cookies ready, and we can all talk models like it used to be. So I hope you like this story. There's a lot more that I'm going to tell in future events and future Facebook Lives. But for now, again, every Friday at 12 o'clock Central Time, I'll be up and talk about something. Also, we are on Instagram. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. And for now, I'm going to leave it at that. Jeff V here, signing off.